G'day everyone. So today we're going to be doing a brisket. What we've got here is just an Angus brisket, 150 day grain fed. So what we're going to do to start off is we're going to trim all the fat off and trim it to a nice uniform shape so it gets nice aerodynamics, everything cooks evenly. So let's start off by cutting the bag open. Trying not to get cut into the meat. With a nice big brisket. So we're going to start on the underside. The first thing we're going to start doing is going for getting rid of all the excessive fat and membranes. Now I'm using the wrong type of knife here. I prefer to have a filleting knife, but unfortunately I do not have a filleting knife as of yet, a sharp one. So we're just going to start by trimming off all the excess fat. Simply by pulling it, using the tip of your knife in any spots, and scooping and cutting it out. So ideally you want to go with the grain of the meat as to try and cut out on all the slice lines. You want to try and get it in one relatively smooth go through. Going very light on the top, just scooping the top as to not scallop the meat. Now you don't want to cut all of it off, just a good majority of it. Now there's a little bit of membrane and stuff left. It's not the biggest problem. It's more that if it's there, it's not going to render down properly, and it's also going to stop your rubs and stuff from penetrating into the meat. All right, so we got mostly clean bottom portion of the brisket. So now I'm going to flip it over and go to the other side. Now you want to flatten it out, and first part that I'm going to go for here is, let me turn it up for a second, is right here, right between the muscle of the point and the flat. Got a nice big chunk of fat right here. So what I'm going to do is about there, start cutting in, and once I'm about level with the rest of the fat, I'm going to scoop and cut out, getting very little to no meat. As you can see, that is all fat. So now the other thing I'm going to do as well is I'm going to shave down on this point because it is rather high over the rest of the meat. Don't worry, I will be reusing this in future cooks where I grind it down into burger patties or try using it in sausage. I will be reusing it because it does feel like a waste cutting it all off, but you don't want a really high point and really low down here because you're going to get an uneven cook. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slice it all to be mostly even. But you can probably see there, that is a large amount of fat. There is a little bit of meat running straight through the middle there. but it is predominantly fat. So I'm going to chuck that in the bucket. I'm going to keep all the fat to the side as well. I'm also going to render it down in the smoker. So now we just keep going along. We're going to start trimming off excessive amounts of fat. Let's go right here. You can choose the thickness that you want to go for, but as the Americans say, it's roughly about 1/4 inch thick is the go-to thickness of fat. If I remember if I figure out what the millimeters is, I'll link it in the description. But we're just going for any large caps of fat. We're also trying to make it as aerodynamic as possible. Taking off light amounts at a time, as to not get too deep into your brisket. If you do manage to scallop into the meat a little bit, it's not the end of the world. It's just that little bit of extra exposed meat to the smoke. One benefit if you do scallop into the fat a little bit, is you'll get a rough idea on how thick your fat is. So you can gauge it a little bit from there. All right, I think that's looking pretty good in terms of fat level. So now I want to go around and I want to kind of round it out a little bit more. Get rid of any sharp edges, because they're the edges that are going to firm up and they're going to cook and possibly burn before the rest of the meat is cooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around and round it off, because we don't want any burnt or crispy parts in the brisket. Now, I don't claim to be a professional at this. I'd say I'd rather more of a beginner. But what I'm also going to do is down here it gets quite thin compared to the rest. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to round off down where it's a bit thinner. Okay, so I'm going to probably take roughly about that. Because this end will cook a lot faster than the rest of the brisket will, and therefore we'll have a bit more crunchy and overcooked brisket towards the bottom there. Now, to make it easier on yourselves too with the whole trimming process, try and stick your brisket in the freezer for a few hours to start hardening and making this brisket a little firmer, so that cutting and shaving is a bit easier, because as the fat starts to warm up, it starts getting quite slippery. All right, so here's the trim on a bit of a close-up. But nice smooth, no sharp jagged edges. Underside's looking pretty good. There is a few score lines from where the butchers would have cut this up. I might take that little dag part off. Just there. But most of it's all gone. Little bits of membrane. I haven't got a knife good enough to be able to cut that membrane off easily without scalping into the meat. But that's it. That's all you need to do for your trimming. So now we're going to move on to the seasoning of the meat. So what we're using today is going to be White Magic, Chook Dust, and Big Bark. So first off, we're going to start with the White Magic. Just going over, giving it a light dusting to start building those layers of flavour. Not forgetting about your edges. And your ends. So you can take a choice of, if you decide you want to use a binder, if you've got a nice cryo-packed piece of meat, it should have enough juices on it already that you shouldn't need a binder. But that is up to you whether you decide you wish to put a binder on. But as you can probably see already, the salts inside the rub have already started coming out, bringing the moisture out of the rub, out of the brisket, and it's starting to adhere to the meat. So while I've already got this already flipped over, I'm going to move on now to chook dust. Just giving it another coat, adding on and building up those layers of flavour. Once again, don't forget the sides. Give it a pat in. Flip her over. Now you can pick your seasoning of choice that you wish. Most people would just go for a heavy dose with pepper and salt and a bit of garlic powder. But for today, I'm trying to go for a bit more punch of flavour. Probably, they would say it probably goes more towards a competition style brisket. But, so now we're going to move on to Big Bark. This is what's got the high concentration of pepper and a bit of activated charcoal. It's going to help assist with getting a good bark on it. So as we go along, give it a good coating of this one. Once again, don't forget those sides. Give it a good pat in. This is where you could let it sit for a couple minutes just to let the meat juices come out, which I'll probably do on this side. Giving a good coat. All right, so that's all the seasonings on. Give it a good pat, let it sit, let it rest, let all the juices in the meat come out. Saturate saturate your seasoning, start adhering to the meat. And as those juices come out, they will slowly start absorbing back into the meat, in terms flavouring the inside of the meat at the same time. So I'm going to chuck this back in the fridge for maybe 4 or 5 hours and do a recording of the start of the smoke later in the afternoon. All right, everyone. So we left off about 11 o'clock this morning, and we are now at 8 o'clock at night to get ready for an overnight cook. So as you can see here, all the juices have come out of the meat, and most of them have absorb back in. We've got a little bit of cooling inside the tray, but the seasoning has adhered well to the brisket. So I've got the smoker set to 107 Celsius, which is approximately 224, 225 Fahrenheit. So let's whack her in. And I'm going to go be chucking the point end as close to the firebox as probably possible. That is where the hottest part will be. On top rack. And then I'm going to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck the pan underneath. I'm probably going to get some water and I'm probably going to fill it up a little bit just to help as a heat sink towards the bottom of the brisket to prevent any the bottom overcooking or overcooking. And with what little space I might have left, I'll try and chuck some of the beef fat in there to render down for tallow to ready for wrapping in the morning. So I'm going to do that and we'll cut back in the morning when it's time to wrap. Good morning, everyone. So it's currently about 8 o'clock now. So it's been sitting in the smoker for about 12 hours. So let's have a look, see how she's going. She's got a nice colour bark to it. You see she's starting to get quite jiggly. Especially there, I can feel a bit, that must be a bit of a fat cap, a bit of a fat pocket there. But she's starting to give way in places. So to me, that's saying that it's pretty much time to wrap. The thermometers are reading about 76 and 73. So 76 being in the point and 73 being in the lean. So we're going to take her out now and we're going to wrap her up. All right, so I'm going to pull the probes out and we're going to go get it transferred onto the foil. So the wrap we're going to go for today is going to just be the foil boat. There's many different wrapping methods that you can use, such as full foil wrap. You could do butcher's paper wrap. You can also go for the foil boat. And then there's also one other one, which is the hybrid, like a hybrid sort of method of foil boat and butcher's paper wrap, where you're getting the kind of the best of a couple worlds. But for today, I'm going to give the foil boat a go. So what I've got here is a whole bunch of the fat that's rendered down into tallow now. So it's also picked up a bit of smoke flavour in the tallow. So all we're going to do is just pour it over. And we're going to start scrunching the foil up. Just around the brisket, just like so. So this is going to allow the heat to still get to the top of the brisket and continue rendering more fat and keeping the bark up the top all right. I might add another layer just underneath, just to in case anything happens and it does pierce through for some reason. So I'm going to add a second layer underneath. All right, back into the smoker it goes, and it's going to stay in there till approximately about 95 degrees Celsius internal, and then we'll take it out there and start letting it rest until ready to serve. Let's get a quick close-up. That bark is held on really well. Like I said, she's feeling nice and pillowy. So back in she goes, just like that, for the remainder of the cook. All right, everyone. So it appears that we've come to our time that it is ready to check. So let's go and give it a temp and check for tenderness. So we are sitting at 95, and that is extremely probe tender. So I think it's time to start letting it rest. So I'm going to close that over real quick, and we're just going to go in. We're going to go menu. We're going to go to keep warm. We're going to start cooking. We're going to go down to 65 degrees. I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to let it rest for the next few hours, and until it's time for us to slice up and get ready for dinner. All right, so it's been about 6 hours of resting at 65 degrees Celsius. So let's go get it out of the smoker and get ready to carve her up. All right, look at that. Now that looks like beauty to me. So without further ado, let's give it a bit of a cut in and let's reveal this cross section. Here's the moment of truth. Look at all that juice falling out. No squeezing required, it's just oozing. All right, so I'm gonna cut a slice off this and then I'm gonna give it a try and we're gonna slice it up ready for dinner for everybody. All right. So we're gonna go for, oh, it's already starting to fall apart on me. Give it the bend test. Bending nicely, still holding itself together. And yet, breaks apart at the lightest tug. Let's put all that back down there. And let's give it a go. That's ripper. That's really good. That's really, really good. All right. So, if this video has helped you out, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you've got any questions, send them through in the comment section, and I'll try and help you the best I can. Till then, see you next time.